So relationships is something that's quite loud for me in my world at the moment. I'm still navigating like a co-parenting relationship with my ex, but then within my work, I'm working with a lot of people who are going through divorces, separations, who are having niggles in their relationships. So I'm doing a lot of relationship work with my clients. One thing is, when I talk about relationships on here, I'm talking about when there's two decent people coming together trying to relate. I'm never talking about when we're involved with toxicity or abusive behaviors and just people. I'm talking about when there's two decent people who may have a bunch of shit they're carrying from their life, but they're decent people who are trying to come together and relate. That's what I'm talking about anytime I talk about relationships. Not talking about toxic, abusive relationships or manipulative relationships. But yeah, one of the main sort of things I see, no matter the age or the background or the dynamics within the relationships, when relationships start to break down, is one thing is lack of communication. So not knowing how to express expectations, feelings, emotions, boundaries, all these things. So not knowing how to express and ask for what you want in a relationship. And that comes from all different reasons. Sometimes people grow up in households where there's indirect communication, so they've never been taught how to communicate. Some people, when they did try to communicate as children, they were shut down, so they learned that it's not safe to communicate. So there's all these different nuances to why people can't communicate. Generally, it's a breakdown in communication. Really quick example of indirect and direct communication, because some people still don't get it, because they say something, but they think they say something else. So the assumption and the expectation is the person to respond to what they think they've said and not what they've said. So really a simple one is, the bin is full versus, can you take the bin out? So the direct communication is ask for what you need. Can you take the bin out? Indirect communication is just a statement. You've just made a statement. You haven't asked for anything. And then your partner doesn't take the bin out, and then you erupt. And the story is, I've told you to take the bin out and you haven't. You haven't taken the bin out, but you never asked for the bin to be taken out. You just made a statement that it's full. And some people can work with indirect communication and understand what's being said. Other people don't. They just hear what you've said, like matter of fact. And this comes up in all different ways in relationships. So learning to communicate directly can save your relationship. Now, people who've grown up with indirect communication and stay with indirect communication will often defend their indirect communication by saying, well, they should have known what I meant, or it's obvious what I meant. That's really tiresome for someone to go through their day constantly trying to work out what you said. So although it may seem obvious to you, for the other person who's distracted with their life and their perception of what's going on and suddenly has these statements thrown at them, although it might seem like an obvious thing to you, it might not be obvious to them. So often people do defend the indirect communication instead of just learning to communicate direct. Number one thing I see is unspoken expectations. So you have an expectation of how you want things to go, but you haven't spoken that expectation. You haven't explained, communicated directly exactly how you want that thing. So the person starts doing that thing just how they do that thing. And then the resentment comes because they're not doing it in the way you want them to do it, even though you haven't expressed to them how you want it to be done. On top of that, we also have unconscious expectations that's running through our programming, running through our conditioning. So we don't even know we have this expectation because it's embedded in us. And then this person is constantly not meeting this expectation that they don't even know exists. And this resentment is building towards them. And we're still not communicating. So that's why communication and unspoken expectations fuck your relationships. And the last thing is just assumptions. And this all boils back down to communications, because assumptions come from not communicating. Because you wouldn't have to assume something if you've communicated. So we often assume someone's done something for a certain reason. So a way an assumption can fuck your whole day up. You don't get the attention that you wanted from your partner in a particular moment, right? Maybe your partner was just busy doing something, right? They're just busy and they're gonna come and give you that attention, but they haven't given it to you in that moment. Then you assume that you've done something wrong. You've assumed something's wrong with you, or you assume that they're losing interest, or you assume that they don't like you, or you assume all these mad assumptions when they were just finishing off an email or finishing off a page of a book or fucking whatever, having a shit in the toilet. You know, they're just living their lives, and we're stacking and compounding all of these assumptions to why they're doing what they're doing, and relating it back to our self-worth. So this is what I mean about your partner isn't making you feel how you feel. You're making yourself feel how you feel through your assumptions, through your expectations, and through your lack of communication. This is why expressing how we feel is really important, because when you express how you feel, your partner can be like, oh, wow, you feel like that? Well, no, that's not what this is, right? But we don't express it, we just harbor it, and then we create these stories. And suddenly our partners become our enemies. They become the villain, and we become the victim. That's not how relationships are supposed to work. There's not supposed to be a villain and a victim. That's conflict. That's not relating. Ooh, can't do that. That's not relation. This is relationship. And the problem this day and age, because we're all protecting our peace, because we're all hyper independent, as soon as something gets uncomfortable in a relationship, we run. As soon as the mirror is polished, we run. And then we go find a new relationship, and it comes out in the first couple of months because we're not being ourselves. It's the honeymoon period. We're putting on a mask, but eventually the mask drops. Patterns come through, habits come through, and we find we're in the same predicament where this mirror's being held up. And then we run. Because relationships aren't there to make you feel good. That's not the purpose of a relationship. You are responsible for feeling good. You are responsible for your life. You do not put the responsibility, you do not outsource this stuff to other people, because it makes us vulnerable. So we learn to do this ourselves. Relationships are for growth. For people to come together, to hold up some fucking mirrors, to work through their shit together, and grow together. That's a relationship. And people aren't having relationships now. They're searching for a feeling. And as soon as that feeling isn't available with a certain person, they would jump ship and go find it with someone else. And this pattern just keeps going round and round, because you're searching for a feeling that ultimately you can generate yourself. You're outsourcing.